From the cramped, poor apartments of Chicago to the laughter echoing through despair, Good Times became a television icon of the 1970s. Premiering in 1974, the series did not just tell stories about poverty, but exposed the shattered dreams of America's working-class families. But after the sitcom lights faded away, what happened to the legendary cast now? Number 1, Esther Rolle as Florida Evans. Without needing to shout or create scandals on screen, Florida Evans still became the soul of Good Times simply through Esther Rolle's stern gaze and commanding voice. When the series began in 1974, Esther was already 54 years old, older than most sitcom leading ladies at the time. But that was exactly what made her different. Florida was not the perfect Hollywood-style mother. She lived in poverty inside Cabrini Green, struggling to pay every electric bill and put meat on the table. Yet she still kept the Evans family from falling apart. During the early seasons, Florida constantly had to stop arguments between James Evans and their son JJ, while also protecting Michael from social trouble as the boy became increasingly radical in his black activism beliefs. After the shocking death of James Evans Sr. in the show, Florida nearly carried the entire emotional weight of the series. Scenes of her crying alone in the kitchen or sitting silently inside the dark apartment became legendary moments in American television history. In real life, Esther Rolle was just as strong-willed as her character. She publicly opposed the way Jay was turned into a ridiculous black stereotype because of the catchphrase "Dynamite," causing years of backstage conflict between her and the producers. Esther even temporarily left the show to protest the direction of the writing. She never struggled with addiction or major romance scandals. The greatest drama of her life was her fight to protect the image of black women on television. After Good Times, Esther continued acting, but no role ever escaped the shadow of Florida Evans. She passed away in 1998 at the age of 78 due to complications from diabetes, leaving behind the image of one of the most respected television mothers in American sitcom history, a woman who turned suffering into dignity and poverty into unforgettable strength. Number 2, John Amos as James Evans Sr. From the very first appearance with his faded tank top and eyes filled with the pressure of survival, James Evans Sr. made audiences realize that Good Times was no fairy tale. John Amos entered the role in 1974 at age 35, bringing the tough presence of a working father crushed by life but still trying to stand tall. James Evans worked every kind of labor job to support his family in the poor Chicago housing projects, from construction work to moving heavy cargo. But money always disappeared faster than hope. His character constantly exploded in anger, yelling at Jay for being irresponsible and arguing with Florida about raising the children. Yet those angry outbursts made James painfully real. One of the most haunting storylines came when he suffered through long-term unemployment, sitting for hours inside a dark apartment because he could not pay the electric bill, only to break down crying when his children had nothing left to eat. The off-screen death of James Evans after Season 3 shocked America so deeply that many viewers sent protest letters to CBS. In real life, John Amos did not leave Good Times peacefully. He openly accused the writers of turning the series into a joke centered around Jay, while reducing the depth of the working-class black family story. The intense backstage arguments eventually got him fired from the series. Amos's private life also faced turmoil. He endured a painful divorce and later experienced public tension with his daughter regarding finances and elder care. Even so, he remained respected as a symbol of classic American television masculinity. After Good Times, he made a lasting impact in Roots and many other productions. But James Evans remained his immortal role forever. John Amos passed away in 2024 at the age of 84, closing the life story of a man who represented millions of poor fathers constantly fighting to keep their families from collapsing. Number 3, Jimmie Walker as James J.J. Evans Jr. By simply shouting "Dynamite" with a mischievous grin, J. Evans turned Good Times into a pop culture phenomenon of the 1970s. When Jimmie Walker joined the show in 1974 at age 27, he was nearly unknown. But after only a few episodes, he became the biggest star of the series. Jay was the lazy older brother who loved jokes, avoided responsibility, and constantly drove his father insane with childish behavior. But behind the comedy was a poor young man using laughter to survive inside a violent and hopeless housing project. Early seasons showed Jay, repeatedly pressured by James Evans to get a serious job instead of pursuing art. At one point, he became involved with street gangs, was exploited into painting for criminals, and nearly lost his future completely. Though often treated as comic relief, Jay represented an entire generation of black youth trapped between poverty and dreams of escape. Jimmie Walker's overwhelming success also became the source of major backstage drama. Producers focused more and more on the phrase dynamite, which angered co-stars like Esther Rolle and John Amos because they believed the show was losing its social depth. Walker was criticized for turning black representation into a television joke, even though he always insisted he was simply doing his job. In real life, Jimmie Walker became famous for his love life but never married. He was linked romantically to several famous women and caused controversy in recent years because of his conservative political views and shocking media comments. Although he never faced prison or major addiction scandals, his life has always carried the controversy and loneliness of an entertainer trapped in the shadow of one role. Today, Jimmie Walker is 78 years old, his hair completely white, but he still performs on comedy stages as if the scream of dynamite never truly disappeared from American television history. Number 4, Bern Nadette Stanis as Thelma Evans Anderson. Inside the cramped apartment filled with arguments from the Evans family, Thelma always appeared like a rare ray of light, beautiful, intelligent, and determined to escape poverty. In 1974, when Good Times premiered, Bern Nadette Stanis was only 21 years old, youthful enough that many viewers believed she was truly a teenage girl from Chicago's South Side, but behind her gentle smile, Thelma carried heavier burdens than almost anyone else in the household. Her character was constantly harassed by older men, treated like decorative eye candy because of her beauty, and forced to fight for respect for her intelligence rather than her looks. At one point, Thelma demanded to leave the housing projects to search for a better life, making Florida and James fear that the family would fall apart. After James Evans died, Thelma matured rapidly and became emotional support for her mother and younger brothers. Her wedding to Keith Anderson in the later seasons became one of the rare happy moments in the series. In real life, Bern Nadette Stanis also endured many romantic struggles. She married multiple times and faced several messy divorces that dragged on for years. Stanis also revealed that she suffered deep pain after losing loved ones to gun violence, making her post-Good Times life far less peaceful than audiences imagined. Though she never dealt with addiction or criminal scandals, she constantly fought against being permanently trapped inside the image of the glamorous Thelma. Later, Bern became a speaker and community activist dedicated to helping black women regain confidence. Today, she is 72 years old, but to many American viewers, Thelma Evans remains the most beautiful girl ever to emerge from a poverty-stricken sitcom of the 1970s. Number 5, Ralph Carter as Michael Evans. Unlike Jay, who constantly joked around, or the soft and feminine Thelma, Michael Evans entered Good Times as a rebellious boy filled with revolutionary ideas. Ralph Carter was only 13 years old in 1974 when he took on the role of Michael. Yet his sharp stare and politically charged dialogue turned the character into the protest voice of the series. Michael frequently challenged his father about racism, poverty, and civil rights, even being labeled a troublemaker by teachers because he dared to criticize a discriminatory education system. Some episodes showed him participating in protests, confronting police officers, and making Florida cry in fear that her son would be arrested or killed on the streets of Chicago. Michael also went through a teenage crisis as he began feeling that his family was simply too poor for him to ever have a decent future. His explosive arguments with James Evans created some of the most realistic scenes in Good Times, reflecting the generational divide within the Black American community during that era. But unlike many child television stars, Ralph Carter almost completely disappeared from Hollywood after the show ended. No drug scandals, no violent incidents, No prison sentences instead. His life became strangely mysterious. Carter chose to live privately for decades, staying far away from the spotlight and barely appearing in public. That disappearance sparked endless rumors about bankruptcy, addiction, and mental breakdowns, even though no verified evidence ever existed. Before Good Times, Ralph had been a young Broadway star nominated for a Tony Award, but after television success, his career suddenly stalled. Today, Ralph Carter is 65 years old and lives quietly with his family. As if Michael Evans, the boy who always wanted to change the world, eventually chose to disappear from the entertainment world that once celebrated him. Number 6. Jeanette DuBois as Willona Woods. If Florida Evans was the serious heart of Good Times, then Willona Woods was the colorful fire that made the poor Chicago housing projects feel less dark. In 1974, Jeanette DuBois stepped into the role of Willona at age 42 with charm, razor-sharp dialogue, and explosive energy every time she appeared on screen. At first, Willona was simply the fun-loving neighbor who adored fashion, parties, and teasing men around the neighborhood. But as the series continued, the character revealed increasingly painful emotional depth. After adopting Penny, a little girl suffering from abuse, Willona transformed from a carefree woman into a wounded and reluctant mother figure. The scenes where she discovered Penny had been burned with a hot iron by her biological mother left American audiences stunned and became one of the darkest storylines in sitcom history. Willona also repeatedly failed in love, constantly betrayed or abandoned by men, forcing her to hide loneliness behind laughter. In real life, Jeanette DuBois also lived through a complicated existence. She spent years as a single mother while struggling to balance family life and her acting career. At one point, DuBois faced rumors about a secret romance with a famous singer, though she never publicly confirmed it. The greatest drama of her life involved financial disputes and artistic rights connected to the theme song of the Jeffersons, which she co-wrote. Even so, Jeanette remained beloved because of the intelligence and fierce personality rarely seen in black women on television during that era. She passed away in 2020 at either age 74 or 77 due to conflicting birth records, leaving behind the image of Willona Woods, the woman who laughed the most while hiding the deepest pain in Good Times. Number 7. Janet Jackson as Millicent Penny Gordon Woods. Some children in sitcoms make audiences laugh, but Penny from Good Times made America fall silent in heartbreak. In 1977, Janet Jackson was only 11 years old when she appeared as Millicent Penny Gordon Woods, the skinny little neighbor girl who constantly tried hiding injuries beneath a terrified smile. Penny quickly became one of the most painful storylines in Good Times as the series openly explored child abuse. Episodes showing the girl beaten with extension cords, locked inside the house, or even burned with a hot iron by her biological mother shocked American television audiences during the late 1970s. Janet performed those scenes with such panic in her eyes that many viewers believed she was truly suffering in real life. After being adopted by Willona, Penny slowly found a sense of family, but she continued carrying deep fears of abandonment and shame over poverty. Off-screen, Janet Jackson's life became even more dramatic than any sitcom plot. As the youngest child of the famous Jackson family, Janet grew up under the harsh pressure of her father Joe Jackson, who was accused of controlling and physically abusing his children. After Good Times, Janet became a global music superstar but also faced decades of scandals, a secret teenage marriage that ended quickly, rumors of painkiller addiction, the infamous Nipplegate controversy during the 2004 Super Bowl that nearly destroyed her career, and countless failed relationships crushed under fame. Even so, Janet repeatedly rose again just like Penny once fought to survive violence and poverty. Today, Janet Jackson is 60 years old and considered a music legend. But in the memories of many American television viewers, she will always remain the trembling little girl Penny hugging Willona inside the rundown apartment of Good Times. Number 8. Johnny Brown as Nathan Bookman. Every time Nathan Bookman appeared with his strange mustache and awkward walk through the halls of the housing project, Good Times instantly turned into a chaotic stage filled with laughter. Johnny Brown joined the series at age 39 in 1976, bringing audiences a building superintendent who was both irritating and pitiful. Bookman was constantly mocked by residents for being cheap, greedy, and obsessed with controlling everyone through ridiculous rules. Yet beneath the comedy was the image of a lonely man trapped inside the same ghetto he managed. Some episodes showed Bookman publicly humiliated by residents, pranked by children, and even close to losing his job because of greed over rent money. Still, he returned every day as though laughter was the only thing keeping him alive. In real life, Johnny Brown also experienced a difficult journey filled with struggles. Before fame, he worked countless jobs to support his family while enduring years of racial discrimination in the entertainment industry. Though he avoided major drug scandals or criminal trouble, Brown admitted he was deeply hurt by Hollywood treating him only as comic relief instead of a serious artist. He also faced financial pressure after his career cooled down following Good Times. Even so, Johnny maintained a rare, long-lasting marriage in an entertainment world full of cheating and broken relationships. After the sitcom, he continued acting, performing on stage, and became a familiar face in Black American television. Johnny Brown passed away in 2022 at the age of 84 due to cardiac arrest, leaving Nathan Bookman behind as a symbol of the kind of comedic character audiences both laughed at and could never forget. Number 9, Ben Powers as Keith Anderson. Although he did not join Good Times during the early years, Keith Anderson brought something the Evans family rarely experienced: hope for a stable future. In 1977, Ben Powers was 27 years old when he appeared as Keith, the handsome football player who became Thelma Evans' husband. Unlike many of the men trapped in the poor Chicago housing projects, Keith was educated, ambitious, and genuinely loved Thelma. But Good Times never allowed happiness to exist easily. After marriage, Keith constantly struggled under financial pressure, sports injuries, and the cruelty of racial discrimination within American athletics. The arguments between him and Thelma about money, family responsibility, and shattered dreams made their marriage feel permanently fragile. At times, Keith nearly lost hope because he felt unable to escape poverty despite trying harder than everyone else around him. In real life, Ben Powers also endured a turbulent existence. Before becoming famous, he lived through financial hardship and years of unstable acting work. After Good Times, Powers appeared in many popular television series, but his career never exploded the way people expected. He also faced rumors about a complicated personal life and serious financial struggles during middle age. No major drug scandals or prison trouble followed him, but his story reflected the tragedy of many television actors' sudden fame followed by gradual disappearance from Hollywood's attention. During his final years, Ben lived quietly while suffering serious health problems caused by liver disease. He passed away in 2015 at age 64, leaving Keith Anderson remembered as the man who tried using love to pull the Evans family out of poverty's darkness. Number 10, Raymond Allen as Ned the Wino. The drunken old man standing on the street corner with a cheap bottle in his hand seemed like nothing more than comic relief. But Ned the Wino became one of the saddest symbols in Good Times. Raymond Allen was around 45 years old when he took on the role during the mid-1970s, portraying an alcoholic drifting around the Evans neighborhood. Ned was often mocked by children, chased away by police officers, and used as a living warning about hopelessness inside Chicago's poor communities. But as the series progressed, Good Times slowly revealed the tragic depth hidden beneath his sloppy appearance. In one episode, Ned explained that he once had a stable job and a happy family before alcohol destroyed everything. His rare sober moments made audiences realize he was not simply a useless drunk, but a human being crushed by life itself. In real life, Raymond Allen also endured severe health struggles. After Good Times, he remained known for Sanford and Son, but gradually withdrew from Hollywood as old age and illness overtook him. Though he avoided criminal scandals and major romance controversies, Allen battled financial difficulties and declining health throughout his final years. Severe pneumonia and other complications eventually left him almost completely separated from public life. Raymond Allen passed away in 2020 at the age of 91, quietly, much like the way Ned the Wino often sat alone in the poor neighborhood of Good Times. And perhaps that is what made the character so heartbreaking, because sometimes the person society laughs at the most is the one carrying the deepest pain. When the sitcom lights finally faded away, many faces from Good Times slowly disappeared with time as well. But the laughter, tears, and tragedies they left behind still live forever in the history of American television. Good Times was never just a story about poverty. It was about people struggling to survive inside a world that was never truly fair.